is Bigfoot, Corban?
I think he's a demon.
What would you do if you met Bigfoot?
So, I would probably poop my pants.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Yeah, I believe in Bigfoot. The reason I would say that things like Bigfoot exist is because Satan is deceptive. And as Christians, we need to recognize that.
Hey everyone, it's Bless.
And it's Creed.
And this is our brother Corban.
Hi, my name is Corban. I am their older brother. I'm their favorite brother, by the way. And yeah, I believe in Bigfoot.
We've noticed recently that Corbin has been getting a little into Bigfoot.
And it's scary. Not his big feet, obviously. The Bigfoot guy. He does have big feet, though. We can talk about that in a different episode.
We don't have to talk about my feet.
So, Blessing and I have a few questions for you, Corbin. And you gotta just give us your best answer.
You have to.
Because we want to learn more about Bigfoot, if he's real, and what that means for us as Christians.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
The first question, it's actually a pretty good one. Who is Bigfoot, Corban?
So Bigfoot is a giant, scary ape that runs around in the forest and scares the crap out of people.
Whoa. Cut that. We can't say crap on that.
Yeah, Corban, this is a children's channel.
You just said it, though.
Cut that out.
Bigfoot is a giant, scary ape that runs around, scares the poop out of people. You happy now?
Just continue.
Yep, keep going. Sorry about that, guys.
That is who Bigfoot is. Okay, so basically Bigfoot in pop culture is like this cryptid that people see sometimes when they're in the Appalachian Mountains or they're out hiking sometime. And there's a few videos that claim to have seen Bigfoot. And what people see is a giant, hairy, man-looking thing that walks around and doesn't really do anything, but he just kind of looks at you and is kind of scary.
Are you sure they didn't see you?
I may have been mistaken for Bigfoot a few times.
Yeah.
In camping trips and Walmart. But we're not talking about that.
So what has Bigfoot been, quote-unquote, seen doing?
Bigfoot walks around the woods, and a lot of times people see him because he's just sitting there staring at people. No one knows if he's wanting to eat them, and no one knows if he's just, like, really curious. But Bigfoot will just stare at people.
To be honest, that is a pretty good explanation of Bigfoot. I feel like everything I've heard about Bigfoot, which is not much because there's like not any information about him, I don't know. But I feel like that's a pretty good explanation. So,
well, I'm going to go more into detail of who Bigfoot actually is. But in pop culture, that was him in the gist.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know what else you could say about Bigfoot other than he's a hairy guy who goes and walks around in the woods. But I'm excited to see how you could.
Maybe he has like deep lore.
So, moving on to question 2, which is kind of already answered, but do you believe in Bigfoot?
I do believe in Bigfoot. I believe that he is not just a hairy ape that walks around the woods and scares the crap out of people. I'm sorry, poop out of people. But I think there's a lot more to it.
So, you like not even how we imagine him, like a big scary ape, but you believe in like a Bigfoot being.
Yeah, I believe that Bigfoot is an actual being that people see.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, Corbin.
Our own brother.
Let's get into a little bit more about that. If you believe in Bigfoot, what do you think he is? You've told us like the pop culture reference to who people think Bigfoot is. What do you think he is?
I believe that the world is not just stuff. The world is not just stuff. What that means is that the world is not just what we see. It's not just the physical. It's not just the tangible. It's the unseen. In Ephesians 6:12, Paul talks and he says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, and against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." So to answer your question, I think Bigfoot is not, honestly, I don't know if he is even a physical being. He probably is. But I don't think he's just a neutral being. I think that he is a demon of some sort. And there's a lot to that, and we can unpack that. But to answer your question, I think that Bigfoot is a demon. Or I'll say this, he's an angel. Whether a fallen angel or one of God's angels, I don't know.
That's crazy. Okay, like all that information that just like fueled into my head. I never knew that about you, Corban.
Well, that's why I'm here.
What do you mean that you don't know if it's either a demon or God's angel?
I'm not really 100% sure, obviously, because I've never met Bigfoot. I'm still waiting for that interview. I think he's more so a demon. I don't know what an angel looks like 100%. I've got an idea. But I feel like if he was an angel, there would be the essence of the gospel in what he did. And so a lot of the stories that I hear, there's none of that. So I think he's a demon.
Okay, that makes sense.
That does clear some things up. Okay, Corbin, this leads us perfectly into the fourth question. When did all this start? I lived with you for a while. I should have known. Tell me, give me an explanation.
When did I start believing in Bigfoot?
Yes, and yes.
Oh, well, so about 2 to 3 years ago, I started listening to a podcast called Haunted Cosmos, and they started talking about Bigfoot. And their motto is that the world is not just stuff. And so they kind of pulled me in. And they talk about the idea that as Christians, nowadays, the modern Christian looks at the spiritual world and kind of gawks at it and says, oh, we don't really need to think about that. And they talk about how materialism has taken over Christianity. And so it's really hard today for the modern Christian to talk about demons and spiritual things without being looked down upon. But in all of history throughout the church, there has been a conversation and there has been a belief in the spiritual. Like I just said in Ephesians 6, there is cosmic powers and there are authorities and there are dark forces in the world. Now we believe that the gospel has defeated that. And we believe that one day Christ will defeat death. But as Christians, we can't ignore that there are evil forces in the world. And so when they talked about how Bigfoot might be one of those evil forces and not just some crazy ape running around and make people poop their pants, I was intrigued.
Okay, so you've been doing your research for about like 2 to 3 years. That's quite a long time.
And intermittently, I've been listening to podcasts and reading articles on it. Not all Christian articles, but yes.
Sorry, you sound like a nerd. but very smart. Nerds are smart.
I am a nerd.
Yes, and it's wonderful.
That believes in Bigfoot.
I thought all nerds did. But okay. Okay, that's wonderful. And it's good that you're doing your research.
Okay, Corbin, so moving on to the fifth question. What would you do if you met Bigfoot?
So, I would probably poop my pants like a lot of people do because it's Bigfoot. But also, I think we need to put it in a context of how terrifying it actually is to see Bigfoot. Now, there's a lot of stories out there about people meeting Bigfoot or encountering Bigfoot. And all of them talk about this overwhelming terror about meeting Bigfoot. Now, the reason, that also points to the fact that he might be a demon because there's a terror to it, right? There's a terror to the encounter with an angel or a fallen angel. But one of the stories that's really interesting is there was a man who got mixed up in some very interesting mysticism and almost like an occultic kind of thing. There was a group, and he went camping with this group, and they promised that they would meet this being in the woods. And they started doing their incantations and started doing their chants, and then they went to sleep. And at nighttime, these beings came to their group, and they started talking to these beings. And he describes them as big, hairy men. They were big, hairy men, and they didn't really look like men, but they also looked like humans, as like the way they were shaped and everything. And he could hear them speak to him in his mind. And there was he didn't hear them speak out loud audibly, but in his mind, they would say things to him. And to say the least, he was intrigued. And so he continued to do this practice to where he would summon these beings. And over time, his life kind of started to go really bad. He was depressed. He was scared. He got really kind of paranoid. And these beings started to demand more of his time and started to demand more of his energy. And they wanted him to devote themselves more and more to them, but he tried to get away from it. And what that shows is it's kind of like it's a corrupting thing, and it sucks you in. So in the end, I don't know where this guy is right now, but he got away. And I don't know if he's a Christian, but that puts into perspective that if I ever met Bigfoot, I would probably profess the name of Christ and pray to Jesus, because he's probably a demon.
I liked that story because it really shows our inability and how once you start a sin or something like it, it demands all more and more of your time until you are overcome with it and you can't get away from it. So the hope of the gospel is that we can't, but Jesus Christ can, and he is greater.
I think it's interesting because in a book it was by Thomas Brooks, called Precious Remedies to Satan's Devices, he talks about how when Satan uses sin to tempt us or to lead us astray, he's not inserting sin in our lives. He's using the sin and the only desire in our heart that's already there to pull us away from God. And so you see in this story that this man had a desire to know. He had a desire for knowledge. He had a desire to fill the void that can only be filled by God, right? And so he followed after it, and he practiced what I would say demons told him to practice, right? And that led him astray. And so this story is very interesting, and this is why I believe the saying that the world is not just stuff. Us as Christians have a better understanding of the world of the unseen, better than any other group out there, because God has given us insight to how the world works and how all of his creation is affected by sin, and how and how Satan is a roaming lion running to and fro, seeking those to devour. And so I think as Christians, we need to be aware of that, and we can't just think a materialistic mindset.
And it's not like some mystic way that God has given us insight. It's by his word that he has. He doesn't just come and give us insight. Christians are knowledgeable of this only because God has given us his word, and he speaks through his word.
That's a crazy story, though.
It is a crazy story. There's a lot of weird stories out there about Bigfoot. A lot of them. One was where it was a lady who would stay out at a cabin in the middle of the woods, and this Bigfoot, which was probably a demon, would come and talk to her, and she would have conversations. And every time she went out to that cabin, she was hoping to see Bigfoot, and she would talk. And he wasn't like talking with his mouth, just like the other guy. He was talking in her mind. She could hear him in her mind.
But did you see him?
Yeah, she could see him, which is weird, because you think that if you could see something physical, and if you didn't believe in demons, then he would use his mouth to talk. But her account says that he would speak to her in her mind. So I feel like that's only something
She saw him
a demon can
physically?
see. Yeah. It was really creepy.
In her house? In the cabin?
It was around the cabin.
No. I would not go back.
Well, what's crazy is that she would go out there alone and do that, which is weird, and it's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What did they talk about?
I don't know. If I met Bigfoot, I probably wouldn't continue to talk to him, because I believe he's a demon, and I don't want to interact with demons. But if I had to ask him any question,
Where do I get new pants?
why would I ask him that?
You pooped your pants. I'm sorry. It's just a very intricate. It's for smart minds only. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, keep going.
I would ask him what his favorite place to scare people is.
So you can go there?
No. So I can avoid it.
But like, if he was a demon, couldn't he just like follow you around?
Yeah.
Okay, Corban. Next question is kind of intriguing. What is your best evidence to Bigfoot existing?
I would say there is plenty of evidence out there that is probably real. The accounts of people running into Bigfoot are very numerous and spread out. There's some videos to that you could say, oh, that's pretty legit. There's the one famous video, I can't remember the name of it, but it's to where Bigfoot is walking, and it's like an old grainy video, and he's just walking down like a riverbed or something. Experts have studied that video and said that it could not be faked. There's also videos or recordings of people out in the middle of the forest recording these creatures who have vocal capacities that are far, far more capable of doing wild noises than humans are. And so to say that those could be faked in the time that they were recorded is very unlikely. Those aren't the only two proofs that I have. And if I had to go more in depth, I could definitely bring those to the table. But to answer the question concisely, I think that the numerous accounts of people running into Bigfoot and the proofs that are there lend to it.
That's crazy. I think I know what video you're talking about, and just thinking about it now, that's actually crazy. But what if it was just like a heavy clothed man who was like camping for a couple days, walking by a riverbed to go like clean his big feet?
I mean, there's a possibility. This has to be a big man, though.
Was it like I don't know if I actually have seen the video. I might have lied. But like, was it a big thing?
You know, that's the video that like all of the super Bigfoot fans are playing, and it just seems so fake.
Okay, not gonna lie, I'm starting to believe.
Well, the reason I wouldn't say that's my only proof for Bigfoot. I would say more overall, I believe that there are very evil forces out in the world. I'm not saying that Bigfoot is the only one. I'm saying that the reason I believe in Bigfoot is because I believe that Satan is deceptive, and he takes whatever he can that God has created, whether it be an animal, and he twists it to not only terrify people like Bigfoot does, but also mislead them. And so I think that, yes, there are proofs out there for Bigfoot existing as far as recordings and photos and eyewitness accounts. But more importantly, the reason I would say that things like Bigfoot exist is because Satan is deceptive. And as Christians, we need to recognize that. And that's why I think the modern church and the modern Christian, who has so disconnected the spiritual from the physical in today's world, is at great danger. Because how can they account for things like Bigfoot? I also think that Bigfoot is not our biggest problem in the church, but that's why we're here today, so we'll talk about it.
Okay. In that sense, I believe in Bigfoot because I do believe in demons and that they are real. But that video is kind of hard to believe.
Are you talking about the Peterson Gimlin film? The very famous Bigfoot to where it's old and grainy. That's what I was referencing.
Yeah, I'm talking about that. That's the one that in the Elf Christmas movie, Elf acts like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, that's a good movie. But it just makes you think, such a good movie wouldn't interpret something that's not real. It's about Santa Claus, so obviously it can't be a lie. Wait, why are you guys laughing?
Does she not know?
She's still young.
Blessing. Santa's not real.
This guy believes crazy stuff, y'all. This guy, we should have him on more often. We can do a whole other episode why you don't believe in Santa Claus. But right now, let's get back to the subject at hand, okay?
Why he does believe in Bigfoot.
Yes, exactly. Weirdo.
Well, if Santa Claus was real, he'd probably be a demon.
Okay, Corbin, for our final question, can Christians believe in Bigfoot?
Well, I am a Christian, and I believe that Bigfoot probably exists. And so, yes, I do believe that Christians can believe in Bigfoot. I think the danger is getting so obsessed with Bigfoot or seeking after whatever he may be to the point where we are putting him above God. We don't want to make an idol of Bigfoot. And that's exactly, if he is a demon, that's exactly what he wants you to do. And there are plenty of people out there who do that. But I do think that Christians can believe that there are things out there that maybe science can't quite quantify or account for. But I do think there are things out there like Bigfoot that Christians can believe in. Now, what I do say as well, I'm going to add on to that, is that Christians should not make a big an idol of Bigfoot. Christians should recognize that they live in a world that is affected by sin and is influenced by evil all the time. I don't believe that Christians, if they are truly saved, if a Christian is truly saved, can be possessed or anything like that. But I do think that there is evil out there trying to constantly turn humans away from God. And if Bigfoot's one of those, then we should probably steer clear of him.
That makes sense. Bigfoot is not just some missing link to science. He's not just some physical being that nobody understands, but we can understand it because we do have the Word of God that talks about demons and how they are real. And so it makes sense that he would be a demon.
So what you're saying is like if Bigfoot doesn't exist, he's like a bad thing?
Have you not been listening the whole time?
I was really caught up on the Santa thing, okay?
Okay, guys, so like I've talked a lot about Bigfoot. Now, there's a lot more to say about him, and I didn't really have a lot of time to prepare when I came on here, so I'm kind of just shooting from the rafters at this point. But like, I want to know what y'all think about Bigfoot.
I think I agree with what you said.
So you believe in Bigfoot?
I don't want to attribute that name. I believe that I agree with the explanation that you gave of Bigfoot.
So you're half Bigfoot believer?
The name's kind of just keeping me from it.
Well, I believe in Bigfoot, y'all. Bigfoot's real. He's sitting right beside me. Thank you, Corban, for joining us. Thank you for giving us your answers on... Don't hold my hand. Thank you for giving us your answers on Bigfoot and answering our questions on Bigfoot. And we love you and your big feet. So let's go.
They're not that big, guys.
That was the Blessing Creed podcast.
Bye!
All right, where's y'all's bathroom?